Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. I still love Chicago PD, but intelligence hasn't been the same since these 5 characters left. Chicago PD is still my favorite police procedural, but the intelligence unit has been changed permanently by several character exits over the years. After more than a decade on the air, Chicago PD Season 12 still offers strong drama, compelling cases and meaty conflicts between Hank Voight, Jason Begg, and the administrators in charge of the police force. However, the show is very different than the one that premiered as a mid-season replacement in January 2014. The harsh reality of rewatching Chicago PD Season 1 is that it was a grittier show that used to lean more heavily into Voight's willingness to use violence in the name of getting justice. Additionally, there have been several high-profile exits in the 12 years the police procedural has been on the air. The changes the series has gone through don't make modern episodes less watchable. However, some cast absences are keenly felt even if the characters have been gone for several years. Alvin Alinsky was Voight's best friend and right-hand man for the first 5 seasons of Chicago PD. Beyond that, he was also a well-rounded cop character whose family life became very complicated during the show. His close relationships with Dawson, Ruzick, and Burgess made him a memorable character, as well as making his death twice as tragic. Alinsky was arrested for murder at the beginning of Chicago PD Season 5 and was stabbed to death in prison. 7 years later, I'm still not over this heartbreaking death. Alinsky recently appeared as a ghost in the Chicago PD Season 11 finale, which made the loss even more painful because it confirmed that he was truly dead and hadn't faked it for his own purposes. John said as Antonio Dawson was an original member of the Chicago PD cast whose exit from the series was far less compelling than he deserved. Dawson and his family paid the price for Voight's violence more often than any other people in Voight's circle. Gang members and others seeking revenge sometimes targeted his children, so Dawson's loyalty to Voight occasionally caused strain in his relationship with Chicago Fire's Gabby. It's hard to believe that Dawson has been gone since Season 6. He was such a big part of Chicago PD that it feels like he was there for longer than he was. Unfortunately, his exit is memorable only because it didn't do his character justice. He resigned off-screen and disappeared after his addiction to painkillers led him to push a drug dealer out the window while high, causing chaos when Voight tried to cover up the truth for his sake. Jay Halstead was so central to Chicago PD's first decade on the air that the procedural feels like a different show without him. He was a young, highly moral cop who was often caught between his conscience and the illegal activities that Voight asked him to participate in or look the other way in order to ensure justice was done. Halstead's importance was underscored by the fact that Chicago Med's connection was his brother, Will, who is also no longer part of the One Chicago franchise. Like Dawson, Halstead had a disappointing exit from Chicago PD. He abandoned his marriage to Haley Upton, Tracy Spiridakos, to go to Bolivia on a temporary assignment that he kept extending. Haley finally gave up on him a year before she also left Chicago PD. However, Halstead's open-ended exit means he could potentially come back, especially now that FBI International has been cancelled, so Soffer no longer has another commitment. Justin was Voight's troubled son, who went to prison in Season 1 and spent most of the rest of his time in Chicago PD attempting to turn his life around, only to be murdered when he tried to protect a friend from a gang of robbers. His existence showed the contradiction between the intelligence's leaders' personal and professional lives. Voight went to great lengths to ensure criminals got what they deserved, yet his son was in and out of the prison system. However, Voight loved his son despite his behavior, and that relationship helped humanize him. Justin's death demonstrated that he was more like his father than it seemed, considering that he sacrificed his life for the greater good. His father went after Justin's murderer and forced him to dig his own grave before killing him, but Justin's death still left a huge hole in Voight's life, and in the series as a whole. During the first 3 seasons of Chicago PD, there was a greater emphasis on Voight's family life, which included his surrogate daughter. Erin thought of Voight as her father because he was there for her when she was a troubled teen who was getting into street fights because of her negative home life. Lindsay's exit soon after Justin's death ended the Voight family subplot, turning Chicago PD into more of a standard police drama. This is unfortunate, considering how many plots revolved around Lindsay's admiration of Voight or attempts to help her surrogate brother get his life together. I still love Chicago PD, but intelligence hasn't been the same since these 5 characters left. There's a certain grit and soul to Chicago PD that's kept me watching through every high-speed chase, stakeout, and gut-wrenching interrogation in the basement of District 21. Voight's gravelly voice still sends chills down my spine, and the Windy City still feels like its own living, breathing character. But even as I tune in week after week, something's been missing, more than one something actually. The intelligence unit is still doing what it does best, bending rules, breaking bad guys, and getting justice by any means necessary. But let's be real, it hasn't been the same since some key players left. These 5 characters helped shape intelligence into the powerhouse it once was, and without them, it sometimes feels like we're watching echoes of a golden era that's slowly fading. 1. Erin Lindsay. Oh, Lindsay. The heart of intelligence, the soul. Sophia Bush brought something special to the role of Erin Lindsay, a vulnerability wrapped in steel. She was tough as nails, raised on the streets and shaped by Voight himself. But underneath that armor was a woman haunted by her past and desperate to forge something better for herself. Lindsay had a moral compass, one that always pointed toward justice, even when the road got messy. Her chemistry with Halstead, and yes, I will always ship Linstead, gave us a softer side to all the grit and grime. When she left for the FBI, it felt like a punch to the gut. Intelligence didn't just lose a detective, they lost a conscience, they lost their balance. Since then, the team's moral center has shifted. Without Lindsay, things feel a little colder, a little more blurred, and no one has truly filled that void. 2. Antonio Dawson. The man who walked the line between law and order better than anyone, Antonio was the definition of professionalism. While Voight often charged headfirst into gray areas, Antonio held the line. He was our reminder that doing things by the book wasn't a weakness, it was a strength. Antonio brought calm to chaos. He was the guy you could trust to always try to do the right thing, even when everyone else was ready to throw the rules out the window. His personal struggles, especially with addiction, added layers to his character and gave us one of the most compelling arcs in the show. When Antonio left, intelligence lost its anchor. The debates got louder, the choices got murkier, and Voight had one less person to keep him in check. The absence of that steady hand is still deeply felt. 3. Alvin Olinsky. Olinsky's loss wasn't just a blow to intelligence, it was a wound that never truly healed. Al was more than just Voight's right-hand man. He was his brother-in-arms. He was the old-school cop, the street-smart veteran who carried ghosts and regrets like other men carry wallets. Olinsky had that quiet wisdom, the kind that doesn't shout but always knows what to say. He had Voight's back, but he also had the experience to know when to push back. His death in prison was one of the show's most brutal moments. It still stings. His absence left Voight more isolated, more hardened. Intelligence lost its sage, its calm before the storm. It's rare now to see the kind of loyalty and brotherhood that Al embodied. 4. Jay Halstead. Jay was more than just a soldier-turned-cop. He was the heartthrob with integrity. He brought a youthful edge to the team, but he was never naive. He'd seen war. He'd seen loss. But he believed in the badge. Jay represented what policing could be, not just what it was. Watching Jay grow from the guy in Lindsay's shadow to a capable, principled leader in his own right was one of the most satisfying character journeys in the show. He challenged Voight when no one else would. He stood up for what was right, even when it cost him. And that made him dangerous. In the best possible way. Jay's exit left a leadership vacuum. There's a void where his calm, rational decision-making used to be. The tension without him? It feels more unhinged now, less centered. His absence lingers in every tight spot, every bad call, every moment when you think, what would Jay have done? 5. Haley Upton. Yes, even her. Okay, hear me out. I know Upton was a divisive character for a while, and not everyone warmed to her. But over time, she found her place. She evolved. She became someone who genuinely cared about the people she worked with, even if she didn't always show it.